is Andrew, and I work for Auckland Emergency Management, which is within Auckland Council. I've got a presentation for you, which is pretty generic, but at the same time, we'll just look at different areas that are particular for your particular situation. And of course, please feel free to just raise your hand and ask any questions within this time period that we have, and we can address it right then and there. I've asked Whitney, and I'll also get in touch with Andrew, because there is a sheet which we call Howick Key Contacts and Information. I'm just going to share it here on the internet, and I'll also share my presentation shortly. Can you see this? Okay, I've just, yeah, okay, cool. So this is what I've asked Andrew to bring to you. So this is your key contacts and emergency information. I understand you're within the Howick Local Board, yes? So, so here in this particular sheet, it's about 4 pages, and it comes off the Howick Emergency and Readiness and Response Plan. So we've developed plans. Andrew also have these. They're quite thick, about 50 pages. If you'd like to have one, please also let Andrew know that if you could also have a thicker one. But we tend to give these to organizations such as yourself, Whitney. But we do give out these key contacts and information sheets because they're a quick referral sheet you go to. So here we have key contacts that you need. It requires, it includes, for example, radio stations that you can tune into for later, for updated information. It has our numbers there that you need to call. 0800 222 200 is the number to call if you have anything to report. Of course, 111 is the number to call if there is any danger to life or imminent danger to life. It's important to kind of note, you would have already the local accident and urgent care clinics. So if you have a particular one, just make sure you take that note there. We also include things like electricity and gas, internet, these key areas that these key services that you'd like to contact if anything should occur, like a fallen tree next to your home or something. And then, of course, ATs in there. Is it scrolling so that you can see emergency actions? Okay, so in this particular kind of like a problem-solving tree or an SOP or whatever you want to call it, it basically gives you that kind of perspective. You know, if you're safe, stay at home. If you aren't safe at home, then you need to leave, for example. So then you could have an emergency household plan. And Andrew also has copies of these household plans. So these are safety plans that you can do for yourself. So if your life is at risk, of course, call 111. But otherwise, do stay at home until you receive any instructions. If you're safe, also stay at home. Use your emergency supplies that we'll talk about. And then, of course, you know, stay informed. Your radio station that you're listening to, it's a radio that may have batteries because, of course, the power may go out. And if you have internet that's working, then, of course, you can tune in to that as well. You've got Facebook. If you're on Facebook, we have a Facebook page, which I'll also talk about. And then, of course, in your case, your neighbors would be very important. Now, are we living in independent homes or are we living in apartment blocks?
A mix. So
Okay.
there's definitely a mix in our members. So here I think we've got 3 in single dwellings and 1 in an apartment block.
Okay, so if Andrew can also give you the sheet for apartment blocks,
Yeah,
I've
perfect.
given him sheets for those who live in apartment blocks and just key things that they should understand and know if they live
Yeah.
in apartment blocks in town.
Because I've seen the first one, one that you showed. I've actually got one of those on my fridge. Um, but is this one here, these emergency actions, it's not on the back of it, it's another one that we can get a copy of from neighborhood support?
So if it's got an emergency management icon on it, then that would be the one.
Yep.
It's bluish gray with the skyline, I think, on it, the Auckland skyline. I'm not quite sure.
Okay.
Yeah. Um, I I might have one here, but anyway, but do ask. It's good
Yeah,
to have extra
perfect.
copies if you know what I'm saying.
Yeah,
And
I'll get some for everyone.
cool. And of course, if you need and then of course neighbors are important. They're important. Like if they're trustworthy, they need to understand your situation, so that they can help you if anything happens. Flash floods, especially if you live on your own in a unit that is on the ground, and also stay connected to family and friends. Of course, it's all really about knowing ahead of time, being aware of the weather, listening to well, it's really today everything is electronic, so it's Facebook and then it's Met service. So if you have any way of staying in tune with Met service and AEM Facebook, that would really help. But the radio really should be the one that could give you updates. Um, I would say just keeping an eye out and an ear out on the weather, and if it gets worse, just understand that you may need to call a friend or a family member and say, I'm checking the news. I've checked the weather. Things could be bad. Just note that I'm just staying in touch that and then say, I'll contact you within the next 10 hours or something. And then they know that you'll be back and forth, especially when the weather gets bad. Um, but if you are not safe at home and you need to leave, one of the things that we do recommend, and I'll talk about this a little later as well, is a grab bag. And of course, the grab bag will have, it's not a big one, it's just enough for yourself. You would want to put your medication in there. You would want to put some bottled water in there. Just key things that you need. ID. Make sure your ID is in there. Something for you to munch on. Uh, just something to keep the sugar up if you need that, or just something that will sustain you. And of course, have your phone in there. Any personal items that are of value to you that can fit in that bag, put it there. It helps if you seal them in a Ziploc plastic bag, so that way, if the bag gets wet, all your items remain dry. You
So,
may want.
Andrew, when you said about your ID, because generally we carry our wallets, with our ID in, is it worth getting copies?
Yes, absolutely. Good point. Yeah, if you can get copies of that, put that in. Put the wallet in. But at the same time, if you have a passport or something
Mm,
like that, put it in. If you have children or family overseas that you can go to, for example, if things get quite bad, sometimes you might just want to go to Australia or somewhere close that you're familiar with. So having that passport would be useful.
yeah.
So yes, so just anything that you can't leave home without, put it in there
Mm,
that's small enough. You don't want to go out and they want to go back in again.
yeah.
Um, of course, if you have pets, so if you have pets, um, pets tend to be very, very in tune with disasters before it happens. So if the weather starts to change and there's warnings going off, then it is recommended that you then put them in the cage, put them in the portable cage, put them in at that point, because once things get bad, pets tend to they tend to behave erratically. If a flash flood is, of course, something that you don't expect, so it could just come through the house before you know it. In that case, it's too late to get the pet in. So make sure that these things are done beforehand. Um, and so once you're ready to go, you've got a show, something warm in the bag as well. If you have a hot water bottle, empty it out, put it in the bag. You may need this later. Your favorite tea bags, maybe, just put it there, because the first thing you want to have when you leave is something hot to drink. Yeah. And so if you have a small thermostat that you can fill up with hot water, that might be an idea to keep you warm. And then use the evacuation routes that you've already predetermined. So you know where to go, and then the people know that you're coming, whoever you're going to, if you're going to someone else, if they're coming to get you. Now, it's important to note that when there is flooding outside, that you remain in the house as long as you can safely until you are told or until you have noticed that you should leave. Now, if you look outside in the rain and you see water rising that normally does not, that may be a good sign for you to leave earlier. Just go somewhere and stay with someone that you can be with if it's safe enough to do that. Because once the flooding comes through, then and things happen very quickly, you may find yourself wading through a very strong current. And as you know, that can be difficult. Now, if you've got neighbors, they can help you go through that. They understand that. But if for yourself you feel that you may not have someone to protect you, and it's daytime, and you look out and you see water rising, it will be a good time to just call a Uber, a taxi, and just go out for a little bit until the weather subsides. The weather, of course, is not terribly bad. It's safe enough for you to go out. But if you see, especially that it's been raining a lot and things are looking a bit scary, that might be a good time to just go for a little bit and then come back and see how that is. Um, especially if you live near a stream or if you live in a home that's been impacted before. So, of course, keeping in touch with everyone is important. Just short messages. I'm doing this. I will be there. Call me back or text me back in 10 minutes. So I'll do that for you. That will be really important. So this is a map that is also included in this booklet. And it's got 3 or 4 things there. So the things in the green squares are, of course, your closest A and E. And then, of course, you would have the number in the first page of the one that you prefer to go to, the one that's closest to you. If you live close to Middlemore Hospital, which you probably don't, because you're in Howick, if you're close enough to that would be the preferred place. But if there are other places that are open at the time, this is for your information. They're there. And then you've got some Madai. And now, not necessarily in Howick. You don't have Madai that can support, but you do have one I see just over the border there, near Glendowie, and that would be the Rua Potaka Madai. So 2 things happen when there's a really big disaster like what we had in Auckland Anniversary Weekend. The first thing is that some of your community organizations will stand up. Now, during the floods, a group of people, and you may have been involved in that group, they got together and they went to the Howick Leisure Centre, and they prepared for anyone that needed help to come in. Now, Howick wasn't really impacted at all, but you did have a group there at the Howick Leisure Centre. If something were to happen, like during the Auckland floods, and Howick were to be impacted, the Howick Leisure Centre would be what we call a civil defence centre. Now, a civil defence centre is a centre that is stood up by Auckland Emergency Management, and we will stand that up. And in that centre, we will receive anyone who has been impacted, and we will provide support, including shelter, emergency shelter. And also the different agencies, such as Kainga DSF, all the different agencies will come there to support, including the SPCA. Now, we take about 3 days to stand up. That's the issue, because if a number of local boards are impacted, we need to stand up all those local board areas, and we will tend to stand up the most impacted one first. So the general rule is that you will likely be on your own for 3 to 7 days. That's the worst case scenario. And that did happen for some of the people who were impacted during the Auckland floods. So what I'm saying is that for anyone, whether you're living alone or even families, do what you need to do to safeguard yourself, and don't think of anyone else coming to help you. That is the mindset that you should have. But at the same time, you already have people that are they would be the backup, because you never know that in case they are impacted, and then no one can come for you. So see it as independently as you can, as a family unit or as your own. So you've got that plan. And if you have that plan, you'll follow that plan and you'll be right. Okay? You'll be confident and you'll be calm. And then by the time you get that help, things, in fact, being on your own is probably better than having other people around you, because then you don't have anyone to kind of like, worry. But the good thing about having a plan is that you're calm. Now, when we stand up, and if you call, for example, 111 or the 800 number, would know your address. Someone can come and get you, or if you can come there. So that's us. At the moment, there's really not many other community groups in Howick that can stand up. So in other parts of Auckland, especially in the rural areas, like in Rodney and up in Walworth and that. As you know, in these areas, the community groups are very strong. They're quite active, and so they will stand up readily. Howick doesn't really have these community groups, but you are guaranteed that there will be. And as soon as they stand up, and this is part of my job, is working with groups who could stand up, because these groups who would like to stand up to support their communities in any way, they stand up immediately, and they're very quick to stand up. So they're the ones that we would rely on, because they are on the ground, they know their people. So if you know of any groups that do stand up, and if we do stand up, we will make sure that we let you know that you've got these community groups that will stand up in case there's an emergency. Then they're the ones that you may want to be in touch with also. Now they can they can hold simple cups of coffee for you, and have a discussion on what's going on. They can provide clothes. They can do a number of things, and most importantly, they can refer you to the Civil Defence Centre so that you can
So
get.
does our Howick, Howick kind of Pakuranga area have any groups at the moment that?
There's three groups that I'm talking to at the moment that have indicated that they would like to support,
Yeah,
and so we'd like to support them as they get
yeah.
ready. At this point, they haven't indicated yes. So I'm currently talking to Laurie at the Howick Little Theatre.
Yeah.
They're interested. So we've had an initial discussion. And he hasn't gotten back to me. So please don't call him. But the thing is that they've indicated the
Mm,
Methodist Trinity Church have also indicated that I think they're across the road in Pakura.
yeah.
And then you've also got the I always mention it's called the Sai.
Oh, Selwyn Centre?
No, it's the you. It's called the. This is interesting. Oh, sorry. The
Oh, the temple.
Yes. So
Yeah.
not so I the Sai Center for Hawaii and Pakuranga, not the Buddhist Compassion Relief. So the Buddhist Compassion Relief is actually in Otara, but they will
Mm,
support. They will support if you're close, especially in food. And we're talking to them to see
yes.
how they
Okay.
can help mobilize. So there's Andrew with neighborhood support and them. So we're
Mm,
meeting in terms of how do we encourage some local organizations to stand up. At
okay,
the same
cool.
time, I'm having discussions um, with those three organizations I mentioned: the Trinity Methodist Church, um,
Yeah.
and the Sai Center. Uh,
Okay.
the Howick Little Theatre, they've only come to me recently, so they're not in this. So this will be updated as we go along.
Yeah.
But if you see the map, it's not just that are in Howick; it's also those who are outside. So
Mm,
feel free to go out.
yes.
You've got the Buddhist Compassion Relief Sushi. Go there. They will be open. They will be available.
Yeah.
To,
Is that the icon just outside of that black line?
yes,
Yeah. So like the Flatbush Ormiston area?
they're actually on Springs Road.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's further down. So
Because
how it,
that will suit some. We have some members that like live at Dannemora, etc. So
right? Yes. definitely.
Yeah.
And they're so the sushi center, they do massive work overseas. Like they actually go in. They're very wealthy. Their core business is to help, and so
Mm.
we're talking to them in terms of how they could possibly help in the best way that they can, because they have massive resources. So
Yeah.
so do go to them, and they're awesome. They're absolutely awesome. So
Great.
this map shows you then just those services that are around you. Take note of them, where you are, and know where you'll go. And as we confirm the community groups that could stand up, and we call so these are locally
Mm.
led centers or locally community led centers. Then we'll get. We have nothing. We support them, but they're independent. They're on their own.
Yeah. Good.
And then the last page, of course, is just if you're good at QR codes, then do that. Use that. But the these are the things that we basically refer that number one, check your hazards, know the hazards. I've given Andrew also a booklet about all the hazards, but in Howick, it's basically tornadoes, heavy rain, um, flooding. You've got a lot of water in Howick, actually. And also, you have quite a lot of coast. So when we talk about tsunamis, there is that there are particular areas that may be impacted on land, not all. So we do then offer what you call, which is not really here. It's called a hazard viewer. Now, let's see if the hazard viewer is here. Get your livestock where you can go evacuation route. Oh, here, the first top one here on the left. That's called Know Your Hazards. Check Auckland, right? So if you click on the QR code, or if you press it like this, and you open that link, it will take you to part of the Auckland Emergency Management website called the Hazard Viewer. Now, if you go onto here and say, let's press flooding, right? So I've pressed flooding. It will give you, and then I'm going to put here in this one, give me an address and I'll type it in. Maybe your office address there, Whitney.
139 Union Road.
So I've typed in 139 Union Road. That's in Botany Downs. And so what it does is that it pinpoints exactly where you are, right? Does
Yeah.
that look right?
Yeah.
Okay, so
I think
it's
so. Close to. Yeah.
yeah, where's 139? Oh, there
Yeah,
we are.
there. Yep, that big, huge building.
Oh. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I pressed flooding.
Mm.
If I pull out a little bit, then you'll see where the flooding could occur. So the light blue here is your floodplain. So we all know that we are built on ancient floodplains, and but the blue, the dark blue, is areas that would very much are prone to flooding. So this is a safe area in general, but you do have a lot of floodplains. And whilst the building here is safe, which is this one here, you can then see the areas around that may or possibly flood. So it's just good to know.
Mm.
If you pull out a bit and say you're here in this area, so this is Botany Creek area, which some of you would be familiar with. So all these buildings around Botany Creek are in danger of flooding should Botany Creek flood big time. So depending on where you are, it's good to know whether
Mm.
you are in that zone and whether you should leave. Now, if you live in a place where it's light blue and you see that the water's rising on the road, in that instance, you might want to just have a little holiday, just take a little trip out of everything. Because we have a saying, what doesn't happen happens. And so we never thought that the Auckland event could happen, but it did.
Yeah.
And so it's always safe to be, it's always good to be safe.
Mm.
Okay, so this is the flood viewer, and it's on as I mentioned. You can see it on this one if you tap. So all these things here, if you click on them, Um, they are what you call again. They are linked. And if you go on to Howick Local Board page, if you go on the Howick Local Board, Auckland Council, just Google Howick Local Board, and you go onto their page, and then there's a link there that says our documents and reports and that. You scroll down, you'll see all our documents that you need there.
Okay, cool. I will get some copies of those and include them in our
yeah,
I'll send them out to everyone.
yes. Um, so do have a mosey there. Also in the bag, have some cash in there. There's one, if the ATMs are down, um, money becomes the next but and possibly cigarettes after that. Although I didn't say that. Okay, are there any questions so far? Any?
Anyone got any questions so far? No.
Okay. Of course, if you have any questions that you'd like to talk about, that you'd like to put through late, please put it through to Whitney, and I'll be happy to respond to any. I know this is a whole lot of information, so just the key points there that I had mentioned earlier, and those key points were, of course, to please ensure that you are ready.
Mm. So just like from that, Andrew, and for everyone here, I'll send through just a little recap. I've written some notes and I'll get the those links. So that household plan, grab bag, um, and the link to those websites that you mentioned as well as that whole document that you can then click on the link. So
Yeah,
yeah, so I'll send that all through to everyone that's here after this meeting, and then I'll include it in the weekly newsletter as well.
Please, I have a question. Does this apply to earthquake and volcano in Auckland area?
yes. So if we go back to, let me just dig up that. Yes, it does. In fact, where was it? Where was it? Where was it? All right. So if I go back online,
Yeah.
and I go to say so this is how I do it. I write I put down Auckland Council local boards. I go to Howick. Yep, Howick local board. Oh, I'm not sharing, am I? Let me share. So can you see that?
Yeah.
So this is the Howick local board page that I've gotten onto. I'm going to go down to this bit that says Howick plans, agreements, and reports. If I click on that, then it comes. They show me all their plans, and you got their plans here for. Then this is us, Howick local board emergency readiness and response plan. I'm going to go on this one here, which is hazard fact sheets. And oh, sorry, not that one. That's wrong. It's the summary. And then that's what I showed you. Now, if we click back on the hazard viewer and we open that link, it comes to the hazard viewer. So if you look up here, it's flooding, coastal inundation. That includes like high tide surge, and then you got severe wind, you've got tsunami, you got volcano, you've got earthquake, and you got past events. Now, if I were to click on volcano, and I were to come here and put down just Howick in general, yeah? Howick, there we go. So if you look at Howick in this volcano area, Howick is safe, largely. You're safe. Oh, no, you're not. You got Pigeon Mountain on Huiarangi, and the area that will be impacted will be Half Moon Bay, right? Now, very, very low chance of any volcanoes going off in Auckland, although we have a lot of volcanoes. Then Panmure's got a big one. So everything in purple here, this is where past volcanic deposits were. So we go by what happened, in the past. And so you're in a bigger boundary. So so half of Howick is within this really kind of boundary where it will be impacted, and then the rest of Howick will be in areas that will be slightly impacted. So you'll get a lot of dust in that. So that's pretty much the story of Auckland. We're pretty much in a volcano area. Earthquake wise, it's very low risk again because Auckland is not really there. The closest fault is here in Cleveland. So the faults are where, that's the line in red. So that's a fault line. And the good news is that the closest one to us is a bit further down. It's in Cleveland and Hunua Ranges. The bad news is that we keep finding faults every day. My colleague here gets so excited every time he finds a new fault line. So we're pretty good. The least we worry about in Auckland will be earthquakes or fault lines. So your question is really good because if we look at what we should be really preparing for, it's floods. We should be preparing for floods. That's the key thing. We should be really preparing for high winds if we're in a high wind area. So there's something called severe wind here. So this is Howick in a severe wind. If you look here for Howick is pretty good, but it's just the coastal areas that will be hit by strong winds. But you're pretty, especially if you're within this area here, within Highland Park, Botany Creek, Shelley Park, Cockle Bay, just within that area where Botany Downs is, you're pretty safe from winds. But when it comes to rain, and rain can happen everywhere, let's look at flooding again, as I had mentioned. Howick is just full of water. You got a lot of waterways in Howick. And so, and because, just zoom in a little bit, I apologize. That's better. Because not only do we have a lot of waterways, but there's been a lot of buildings. I'm not quite sure. I do know in parts of Howick you have a lot of new structures going up. The more strain on the storm drains, which are not made for much more. Like I live in Papatoetoe, and the number of rental homes that have gone up is enormous. And then we've had to put a manhole over the storm drain that runs behind our house. So I now have a manhole outside my room. And during the floods, these manholes kind of basically, exploded upwards and properties got flooded. So there's more opportunities for flooding to happen in places where they don't normally happen. And so therefore, the main thing is just to keep a lookout. Very important. I mean, instincts, right? You feel a bit of weather change, it's warm tonight. So therefore, there must be something happening. A warm day and a cool night, a hot day and a cold night. This is the good kind of approach because you've got a balanced kind of weather, hot and cold. But if it's a hot day and a warm night, then there might be a little bit of rain coming. You feel these things. And if you see that, because at the moment, we're seeing that every weekend, and it's been like this for the past 2 weeks, and it's going to be the same for this weekend, we get weather coming in on the Friday, Saturday. And it just appears to be the new trend because of climate change. Climate change is real. It's quite impactful because the oceans are really warming up. So Auckland is now like the place where, before we never used to get these cyclones coming in from the Pacific. And now we're getting these ex-tropical cyclones that are supposed to dissipate and weaken by the time they get to us. But they're hanging on a bit longer because we're also becoming warmer. So we're keeping the cyclones going. And that's what happened with Gabriel. And that's what happened not too long ago. When we had, I forget the name, but we did get quite a bit of rain and wind over Easter. Yeah. So hazard maps are fun to play with. When I do go to, when I explain this to children and to young people, I always talk about us these weather events. This is Mother Earth replenishing herself.
Mhm.
And so if young people understand and respect, then they may not be so fearful, but they will prepare out of respect and prepare, that they know that this is just something that will happen anyway. And unfortunately, mankind, we've accentuated, we've made things worse by adding, by warming up, our planet. But yes, to your question, it's floods and rains.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for that question. That was really important. And
Okay.
this will help you just make your home plan. And that's it's very useful. Um, you are writing it for yourself, so
Mm.
um, these plans aren't necessarily for individual um, dwellers, but you may find it useful. Um, Remembering to keep your home safe, and of course, if you're renting, do talk to your landlord. If you ever feel that any part of your home is not safe, talk to your landlord. Any loose items, make sure they're sorted. It's a headache, I know, but these things need to be sorted in case it happens, especially with gutters. The drains and everything that's healthy waters, the number is on that booklet. You just lodge that plane, and those gutters or anything near you, they need to be cleared when the weather is fine. So
Mm.
don't call in when it's raining. Call in when it's fine. Um, Remember, there is an update to the Residential Tenancy Act and amendments with regards to making the home quake safe. So if you feel that that's not, if that's an issue that needs to be covered, do so. If you live in your own home and you do have insurance, is really helpful. Um, that would be useful as well. So the grab bag we talked about can include things like, walking shoes, warm clothes, raincoat, and hat, and so forth. It's listed there. A notebook and pen, perhaps. Your charger, you know. If you have an extra phone charger, just put it in the bag. That would be a spare one. But what I always say is that, because they say you have 3 liters of water there, so you will have enough water for yourself, especially if you have, a water dispenser. If you don't, just having three large bottles in around there would be really, really helpful for you. If you have a gas stove, that's good. Just something where you can have hot water. Because when the power goes off, it gets cold very, very quickly, and you want to be warm. You really want to stay warm. That's really, really important. So if I know Kmart has those Bunsen burners, I think I've bought one for about $29. But if you have any way of heating, do that. If you're an Uber Eats fan, then just order something from McDonald's with a hot tea because sometimes their power still works. Or if you can still drive and the power's out, just take down. They'll always have something hot there. If they're not impacted, of course, call, your local electric company, whether it's Mercury, or just go on the website and check, what's going on, who's affected, and then you'll know where to go. But I can't stress enough how important it is to have that access to something hot to drink or to fill up your hot water bottle or just something warm. Store warm water, of course, there is that 1 liter, 5 drops of bleach if you have it. Um, and that's in the extreme case. So where everything goes wrong, then that's where it is. You're basically finding water and ensuring that it's safe, any source water. Hopefully, we don't get to that point. But even just bleach would, well, 5 drops, just drops into per 1 liter. We do talk about makeshift toilets, especially because sanitation is an issue. You want to keep. We always, when it happens, we want to keep our dignity, right? So just having a bucket where we and rubbish paper and a little bit of, um, always forget the word. Sorry, English is my second language. Just something like what do you call it? Bleach or sanitizer that you spray. Just
Yeah.
yeah. And so have that in there, and then of course you can tie the bag. If because it's only you can just put a lid on it, and then you can use it more than once, and then of course place it somewhere safe where it can be collected later. The issue with neighbors is a big one. Some neighbors, everyone says know your neighbor and everything, but some of us hate our neighbors. It's just how it is. But knowing who they are and them knowing for us, and sometimes we need to, be realistic in whether we need them more than they need us, for example, especially if you feel they're trustworthy. But there is something to be said about disasters. The best of us tends to come out when there is a disaster, and we tend to really look out for each other. And sometimes, say for me, where I live, our neighbors we don't particularly get along with, but we know each and every person in the household. So we know they've got three little kids, and we know they have an elderly person. And we do know that if anything should happen, if the house should catch fire, whatever, we've got that head count, so we will be able to help in that sense. And the same thing with weather, we'll just check in and ensure that the elderly person and children are okay. Um, And so neighbors are really, really important, more and more, less so because of the way, society is going. But just having that personal relationship with someone or knowing who's there is important. I did give you some indication on if you live in blocks. So again, if you live in these buildings, get to know your neighbors. The second floor is probably the best. If you know that you aren't able to get out in a quick way should something happen, then you really need to consider your safety. So know your building. Well, first of all, get to know your neighbors, know the ones who can help you and who you can keep in touch with. Know your building. Talk to the landlord, the management. There's always issues there. I know there's always issues, but just being abreast of those without getting too stressful about it, because it can be quite stressful. And of course, because there's usually that group, that residential group, um, be involved. Just know what's happening there if you're not already. And so when it comes to emergencies, you need to know what you're going to do if there's an emergency. Um, you need to sometimes you just don't know what's happening. What do you do? Do you stay put? Who can you call? Is there someone on the ground floor that you can? Is there someone, on your way out? Do you have checkpoints on the way out where you can get awareness to know what exactly is happening? So know your local hazards. Of course, keep in touch with people. Make sure you have water, especially if you're going to remain in your building. A torch is really important in that case to navigate the walkways if the power's out. And of course, can't emphasize your radio and batteries. Now, the car, of course, is another source of power. So if you have that USB and the connection to that cigarette holder where you can just then recharge your phone, that would be really helpful. And just keeping your little transistor radio, whatever you have on batteries, is important. Okay, and then of course there's the evacuation. Now, in in some cases, you don't have a choice, but you do know that there's two stairs down that you have to navigate. Well, if that's the case, then do take the stairs, but you're going to want to take it much earlier than the others, right? So that you can go at your own pace and no one is rushing you. But if there is no choice, then once a week, just do it so that you practice. You're
Yeah,
familiar with the steps.
that's a good
Yeah.
idea. Because I do have a question around this with, retirement villages. Do they work, do they kind of manage this through Auckland Emergency Management? Do most of them, kind of set up this plan in place with your support?
So retirement villages and they all have their own safety plans. They don't need to get us to approve that, although we give them the resources that we have that can help them
Yeah, cool.
just improve on their plans because they know what's best.
Yes, yeah.
But what I can say is say for example Pacific Island families that I work with in the South. These families have safety plans, but if they can't if they can't sort out their grandmother or their grandfather who's on the bed, can't leave the bed is a big fat hospital bed, they're reliant on oxygen, then the whole family safety plan just stops. They don't move. So I concentrate on that bit. And what I say to them is, you have to do it because it's common sense. It just takes time and thought. So what we've come up with, for example, is get a wheelchair. You'll put them on the wheelchair. The big fat oxygen bottle. Get a smaller one that can be used if you need to get that getaway, and then practice it. Practice it. Make it fun. Enjoy going out on the wheelchair and then coming back in again, because if they don't do that, when it comes the time to do it, they're going to hurt themselves, and of course,
Yeah.
these people are going to be dead weight. So, and when they do the safety plans, one of the key people that should be a part of that discussion is, of course, that elderly person, because the most calm person in the home when something happens will be that person because they've got life experience, but they will remember a lot of things that the younger ones or the house, the person that leads things will forget. And they'll just say, don't forget that, and then they'll know what's there. So if you're an independent dweller and you're living alone, I mean, it's much, much easier because you can just concentrate what you need to do. No one's bothering you and you know where to go. So I would say that if things are happening and you think, okay, what do I do? Things could get worse. We can't use the elevators. Then just slowly go down the stairs and
Yeah.
make your way out.
And potentially even if you are, say, in a retirement village or even independent living and you have a mobility support, you know, device or something, have it at least, beside the door or where you can access easily would probably be a good option.
Yes, absolutely, fully charged, raring to go, and that's really important. It's just and of course we are creatures of habit, and when I mean myself at my age, I'm going on to 60 now. Already, I'm beginning to think of things like that. You just naturally become more aware of your circumstances, and then you take things, you prepare things earlier. So keep that instinct. That is a very, very important instinct to have. That's what saves you. And of course, just having clutter and noise around and other people, it just disrupts, your thinking. So if you've got it all planned before, just say to them, I know what I'm doing. Thank you so much. I'll do it now. Of course,
Yeah.
listen, because they may say, well, you can't go there because, there's fire, whatever. And then you may need to think another route. So yeah, just be prepared and practice that route once a week, twice a month, just so that you've known it before and then you know when things change.
Yeah,
Um,
that's a good idea.
and make it fun, just make it fun because and always keep, always observe around. One of the things about when we build, every time we build a new road or build a new building, we impact the environment. So every time something new goes up, just be conscious that that could change some of the things around you. Yeah.
Mr. President,
Um,
flood is a depraved lie, and it served no purpose during this time of national mourning. Here are the facts. In the lead up to this tragic natural disaster, the National Weather Service did its job. Despite unprecedented rainfall, the National Weather Service executed timely and precise forecasts and warnings.
The rivers in the hill country can be wildly unpredictable. This CCTV footage sped up shows just how quickly the young.
Are you there, Andrew?
yes, sorry, I'm listening to David's TV broadcast. Are we all listening to hearing that?
Yeah.
Yeah, no,
Sorry, I've just turned it off.
it's so good, David. It was if you had the picture on, we'd all enjoy it. But the thing is that is true. Like Ecuador, I think recently Texas was it? All
The
these,
Mm,
Texas, the Texas floods. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
And so what that tells us is
it
that
is actually quite relevant. Yeah.
definitely.
absolutely. And governments just do not have enough resources. They do
Mm,
not have enough resources, so don't, in New Zealand, Auckland does not have enough resources. So if you think about the Auckland floods in a way, it
yeah.
was big, but it didn't impact everyone. Imagine if it impacted many, many more people.
Oh,
So,
definitely.
so that is why, we need to do our bit. When people come to me and say, well, I had a neighbor down the road that no one was helping, my question to them was, well, what did you do? What did your community do to help them? Because it's very clear there's no way we could have gotten to them. And that won't change no matter which government comes in. You only have so much money. So I'll just finish off with a couple of more slides. So this one is, who is civil defense? We are all civil defense. Okay, we are all civil defense. We call in when we see something happening. That is the information. When the floods happened, we were blind. We couldn't see anything. So it was the calls that came in that gave us information about vulnerable areas, and they were all able to call up the rescue teams to go there as one potential area. So you've got the community, which is organizations, churches, families, individuals, and so forth. We've got the utility companies, which include, the electric companies, the telecommunications, water, healthy waters, and even AT, the roadworks. And they all come in and they try to fix things as quickly as they can. You've got the welfare agencies, Kaing Order, and we've got Animal Shelter RSPCA, and we've also got uh, WINS in them, and then emergency services. So these are the frontliners. You've got the St. John's, the police, fire. Now, if there's a fire and emergencies leads. If there's a terrorist attack or a protest, civil unrest, the police lead. If there's a fire or chemical spillage, defense leads, and if there is an epidemic or anything, then health leads. Anything to do with weather, tsunamis and so forth, that's where Auckland Emergency Management comes in. So we're more about the disasters that happen that are natural causing.
Yeah.
Um, that would be us. But we do all work together when anything happens. So first of all, you can't help anyone unless you help yourself. And others that are trying to get to you will be really relieved, and then they can then consider themselves if they know that you're safe. So check on your neighbors, those who are around you. And then when you're all set, then that's good. But if you need to go out, then go to your closest community emergency hub that we spoke about, or to your civil defense center. In Howick's case, it will be the Howick Leisure Center. If you live closer to Otara Papatoetoe, then it will be the Otara Leisure Center, the Puke Otara, which is in the town center if you want to venture there. So that's where the Otara one is. And then finally, know your hazard risks. We talked about this. So for us, it's really about rain and flooding. If it rains and it rains a lot, flooding is definitely there, and also high winds for some places. And Auckland is also prone to tornadoes. And now those come in very, very quickly. So it's all about keeping things hunked down. There's not much that you can do, but having someone know where you are and where you live, that is helpful. Okay, and so I think I should leave it there. Basically, that's it. And do enjoy the resources once Whitney gets them out to you. They're good reading. And
Yeah, thank you.
and if you ever get together as a group, doing this hazard mapping,
Mm.
fun. It can be real fun doing it as a group as well.
Yeah, definitely. I'll be happy to play on that as well. Thank you so much, Andrew. That was yeah, great to have all that information and yeah, to just have an idea of, what to do and where to go is great. So I will, like I said, get all that info together and I'll email it to you guys that we're here today and then include it in the newsletter as well, in case you missed anything.
Yeah.
Anyone got any last questions to ask Andrew? All good?
Can I ask one question? And I apologize if it's putting you on the spot, Whitney. But if something were to happen, how would you guys help each other? How would that happen?
Yes, look, I think it's something that we need to establish. So it was really great hearing about and what you were saying about standing up. So I've written that down, and it's something that I want to explore a bit more because although we are a community group of, we're a network of support, should something major like that happen, right now, I feel I wouldn't have, or we all wouldn't have the contacts and the resources and to kind of band together, or even for some of us to be like, yes, we want to be, part of the civil defense support system or something like that. So yeah, I think that's a really good point for us to work towards.
Well, let's continue this discussion on email because we can support you.
That would be great. Thank
Yeah.
you.
And
Yeah.
I think that is really, really awesome. Like I said, there's really nothing happening in Howink at the moment. So
Yeah.
this would really be really, really awesome. And
Yeah.
and so let's continue this discussion online.
Yeah, that would be
And
great because we do have a very connected community as well. We have members that like with the Lions, some that are with neighbourhood support as well as street coordinators, and they're very involved in that. Yeah, progress groups, U3A. So we do have an amazing group of members that are highly connected. So yeah,
yeah,
I'll
yeah,
check in with you and touch base on that.
that would be awesome. Howink is the largest local board area in Auckland, largest population. So, volume is, just have going big is
Yeah.
always important. So awesome.
Okay.
Really
Cool.
awesome.
That sounds
Yeah.
great.
Okay.
Thank you so much for joining us today. And I will touch base with you and send out all that information to everyone else.
Thank
Okay.
you, everyone. Thank you, Peter.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye
Bye-bye.
bye.
Bye-bye.
You all take care.
Bye,
Bye bye.
everyone.
Bye.